In this practice, we'll focus on creating an attitude of gratitude, or a posture of gratitude, or a look of gratitude. One of my yoga teachers always used to have this expression, fake it till you make it, meaning if you're not feeling so happy, have this joyful look on your face. Well, sometimes that doesn't work so easily for all of us, and it feels so insincere. When you open your upper back, take the heads of the arm bones back, externally rotate your upper arms. You feel this nice opening, and it is a very inviting expression, an expression of gratitude. We'll begin standing at the front of the mat. I'll be using blocks for some of these. If you don't have blocks, we can improvise. Stand at the top of the mat. Stand tall. Externally rotate your upper arms. Turn your palms forward. Draw your thumbs back. This is a wonderful way of opening the upper chest, opening the upper back. With such a welcoming expression, reach your arms up. Now take them behind your back. Press your knuckles to your low back. Hug your elbows in and draw it down toward the earth. As you hug your elbows in, just lift your interlaced fingers up just slightly. Now take the hands to the low back. Rise up. Externally rotate the upper arms, reach up and slightly back. Exhale, take your hands down to the mat and step your right foot back. Bring your right knee to the earth. Take your hands right above the knee. Do the same action with the arms in this pose. Externally rotate the upper arms. Reach your arms up and slightly back. Release your right hand to the mat. Open your chest nicely and reach your left arm over your head. So you get this nice elongation of the side body. Release your hand down. Step your back foot forward. Place your hands to your low back and rise up. Once again, have the palms facing forward, thumbs back, baby fingers forward. Reach up and slightly back. Take your hands down to the mat. Step the left foot back. Bring the left knee to the earth. And have a high lunge where the knee is over the ankle, the pelvis is over the left knee. Take your arms up. Draw your baby fingers in toward each other and reach back. Take your left hand down. Keep your right hand lifted. Now tuck your back toes under. Lift your knee up. Reach your right arm over. And enjoy the fullness of the right side ribs. Release your hand down. Step your back foot forward. Place both hands to the low back and rise up. Let's make our way to the mat where our belly's on the mat. To do that, we'll take our arms up and back again. Place your hands alongside your feet as you come down. Step back to either all fours position or plank. Lower yourself to the mat. Once you're on the mat, take your forearms down in the Sphinx position. Spread your fingers. Draw your elbows back. So it's an isometric movement where you're pulling the elbows back. Your heart is reaching forward. Tuck your toes under. Draw your belly away from the mat so the back body gets full. Keep pulling the forearms back and your heart draws forward. It's a challenging move to get all these actions in. So see if you can keep the shoulder blades hugging in. Maybe even lift your knees up. Keep your belly lifted. Maybe even lift your pelvis up. Maybe walk your feet in toward your forearms. Release your head. Walk your feet back. Draw your knees down. The tops of the thighs down. The belly stays lifted. Elbows draw back toward your feet. Release your heart toward the mat and step your fingers so that they line up with your breastbone. Draw your elbows in. Press your toenails down and rise up. Release down. See if you can do that without the use of your fingertips. Just float your hands away from the mat, rise up, and draw down. Now reach your hands straight back. Usually we have the palms facing each other, but for this practice, we're externally rotating the upper arm, so hug the shoulder blades in by taking the palms parallel to the mat. Maybe the baby fingers can be lower than the thumbs. So you lift up, now draw down. With the hands to the mat, press the palms down with a slight bend to the elbow so you can really pull the hands in toward the top of the mat. As you do, rise up. So you're not lifting yourself with your hands, you're pulling the hands forward, rising up and release down. Come back to all fours position. In all fours position, tuck your toes under, draw your pelvis back, take your hands forward and release your head. Keep your armpits lifted. Give a nice fullness to your breath. Hug your heels in slightly toward one another so that the legs remain very active, even as the toes are working against the mat. Come to tabletop position and lift your pelvis up to downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, come to a short dog by walking your feet toward your hands in the shorter stance dog. Now step your feet so that they're as wide apart as the mat is. In this downward facing dog, take your right hand to the outer left leg, bend your left leg. Keep the right leg straight. Now come toward a straight left leg and bend your right leg. Do that 2 more times. Bend your left knee, lean toward your left, back to center. Bend your right knee, lean toward your right, back to center. Again, bend your left knee, pull your chest in toward the top of the left thigh. Come toward straight leg, bend your right. Release your right hand. Take your left hand somewhere to the outer right leg. Bend your left elbow. Bend your right knee. Shift your weight toward your right side. Straighten your right leg. Bend your left knee. Shift your weight to the left. Bend your right knee. Draw your ribs a little closer to the top of the right thigh. Straighten the right leg. Shift your weight to the left. One more cycle. Bend your right knee. Shift toward the right. Straighten. Bend your left. Shift the weight to the left. Back to center. Release your left hand. Keeping your feet nice and wide apart. Turn your toes out just slightly. Walk your hands back to your feet. Come down toward a squat position with the hands in front of the heart. See if you've got a nice hip opening here in your squat pose. Now place your hands to the mat. Place your knees to the mat. I like a little cushion for my knees, so I've double folded the mat. If that works for you, try that. Tuck your toes under. If you've got blocks, you might want to take the blocks right by the ankles so that you have a landing pad. Rather than being concerned about the pelvis right over the knees, let the pelvis draw back. Draw your tailbone in. Get this nice fullness to your chest. And release back. So your legs stay very active in this. With your toes tucked under, with your hands to your low back, hug your elbows in, lean back. Just open the chest nicely. And release out of the pose. Take your left hand to the block. Point your fingers toward your toes. Lean back. Reach your right arm up and back. Come out of the pose. Take your right hand to the block. Take your left arm up and back. Reach back. And rise up. Maybe you're already feeling this nice openness that we've gotten from externally rotating the arms to open the upper chest and upper back. Now take your palm to the inside of your heel. So you're just reaching to the inside and push the inner heel with the left hand as you do the same action. Reach the right arm up and back. Rise up. Do the same with the right hand. Press the inner heel. Take your left arm up and back. And rise up. Come to all fours position. Make your way to a standing pose through downward facing dog. Step wide on your mat. Have your feet parallel to each other with hands to the hips. Hug your elbows in. So once again, the shoulder blades hug in, the heart reaches out. In working with this expression of gratitude, the openness that you can express in the upper back is such a confirming way to express that you're all in. Turn your right toes out. Not only have we done a lot of shoulder work, but a lot of lengthening of the side body. So come to an expression of triangle pose that's very accessible for you. Just take your right hand to your shin, or if you'd like to use your block, by all means do that. Now let's see if we can go a little bit deeper now that we've done all this upper body work. So bend your front knee slightly. Maybe you can draw your pelvis back a little bit more with the right knee bent. And from that, as you root down through the back leg. Draw the tailbone down toward the mat and get this nice open expression. Reach your left arm up. Now see if you can get the underside ribs, your right ribs, to turn toward the sky a bit. Keep the engagement of the back leg to rise up, to come out of the pose. Let's come to the opposite side in the same way. Turn your left toes out, your right toes in. Legs stay very active. You're hugging the legs in toward each other before expanding out so fully with your arms. Draw your left hand down someplace that it just feels very accessible. Take your right hand and let it rest on your hip or your waist. Now bend your front knee slightly so that you can get some movement in the pelvis. You can move the pelvis back. You can draw the tailbone down. Maybe you can go even deeper in your stance and take your left hand to the floor. If that's not working for you, just find a stance for the hand that you can find fullness in the pose as you reach your right arm up. You keep the steadiness in the back leg before lifting yourself up to come out of the pose. Release your hands. Parallel your feet. With your feet parallel, bend your knees just slightly. Take your pelvis back. Take your hands down to the mat, but take the hands pretty wide apart and just come to fingertip top position. As you bend your elbows, draw your elbows forward so that you can keep your spine as long as possible. Release your head so that you give your neck an opportunity to elongate, and just shift your weight to the left, shift it to the right slightly. So you start to feel the inner thighs, get a nice stretch. You're just kind of honoring your practice here, going very slow before we go to a little bit deeper expression of a twisting action. Walk your hands over to the right side. Take your left hand somewhere to the outer right leg. Reach your right arm, extend it off at the diagonal so you get this elongation here on the left side as you reach your left hand down. Now let's get a little bit more twisting action. Taking your right hand to the low back, turn your left ribs toward your inner right leg and come to a full twist. Release your hands down to the mat. Come back to the center position with the hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Fingertip top position. Draw your elbows forward so that you can keep the spine nice and elongated. Walk your hands over to the left side. Start to bend your left knee. Take your right hand to the outer left knee. Reach your elbow down and extend your left arm off at the diagonal. So both sides of the body are nice and long. Now take the left hand to the low back. Keep on reaching your right elbow toward the mat. Take the top of the right thigh back. Release your hands down to the mat. Bow in. Interlace the fingers behind the back. Reach your interlaced fingers up. Hug your wrist creases in toward each other slightly. Release your hands and come to sit on the mat. Come to sit with your feet nice and wide apart, with your fingertips on fingertip position. Walk your hands a little bit closer to your pelvis, with your fingers pointing the opposite direction of your toes. You might want to turn your toes out just slightly. Keep this nice opening of the upper chest that we've worked on through the external rotation of the upper arm, through hugging the shoulders in toward each other. Now pull your heels toward your pelvis so you activate the legs more fully, keeping this nice opening. Just slowly make your way down to the mat. Lie on your back. Keep your feet where they were. Hold on to your yoga mat. And as you get a good grip on the edges of the mat, pull the mat almost like you're tearing the mat in half. Lift your chest, lift your pelvis, and keep pulling the mat so fully. So you keep this nice engagement that we've gotten. This nice lifting quality of the chest. You've worked to have this expression of gratitude. So see as you lift the chest with this nice opening in the front part of the body, nice engagement of the arms. Can you create even more fullness in your pose? Release your pelvis down. Straighten your legs and release your arms. Have your palms facing up. Close your eyes. Soften your facial muscles. Take your attention to your breath. Breathe in deep. And breathe out long. Breathe in deep. And breathe out long. Allow the breath to be very free and natural. enjoy this time in Savasana. Thank you for joining me in this practice of creating an attitude of gratitude. With gratitude, I bow. Namaste.